All right. Good morning, Greg. What do we got going?
Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to try and replicate a problem that's been identified by the client here, where they're having trouble closing a work order that is for a closed financial period.
All right. And we're on the current production, and we're on a clone of the current production environment, 714 database running LM 1.6.0, which is exactly what's going on in production today, correct?
As best as I can tell, yes.
Right. Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to go in and pick a work order here. This one is for it's in May, and I know May is closed. I've looked at the master financial calendar, and I see May is closed. So I've got this. Okay, I look at it, and the work order is telling me there's a couple of problems here with the kit that I have to assign some serial numbers. So I'm going to go to the kit and do that. I'll go to the kit. Okay, a quick scan down here tells me that all of my consumables that need serial numbers, have them assigned. I'm just going to check. Okay, I'll see that I've got, assigned a serial number here. I'm happy with that. Let's go to my kit. Okay, I'll have to generate a serial number for it. And this must be a manual one that they prepped, so I'll put that in and I'll save that. And my posting period here, it's telling me that this is out of range, but I'm just going to, for the sake of this exercise, it only lets me pick a valid one. So I guess I won't do that for this exercise. Okay, it's all saved. I'll go back. I'll refresh the work order, and the work order will then run out and check its master-slave relationship, check its slave kit, which is going to do all of its transactions, and it says, okay, everything looks good here. So for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to quick complete this. I'm going to try and complete it to a closed financial period. So let's just quick complete this work order. This is running 1.6.0, okay. It has closed that work order. Let's run over and look at the financial transactions that happened for that work order. And these are the journal transactions that happened. And we'll note that it has booked those into a closed financial period. Just to make sure that this is not trickery, let's look at the master financial calendar. And we can see that indeed May is totally closed, yet we were able to post into it. So if your desire is to post into a closed period, LM in the current version that's running in production will allow you to do that.
Okay, Greg. So last week we indicated this problem of closing in a period, and you did an analysis and you wrote up some information. So please explain that.
Okay, what that was explaining was a change that has happened between this version, 1.60, and the version that we're preparing for release, which is 1.62. In 1.62, there's a constraint put in the work order system that you will not be able to post to a closed financial period. The reason being is my understanding of accounting procedures that you're not supposed to do that. So if it's going to be any different than that, we need to know. But that's a new feature, is if you try to post to a closed financial period, you will not be able to complete that work order until you put a date in for the transaction that is in a defined open financial period. Decoupling then.
Yeah. So Greg, now what about the issue of decoupling? How does that fit into this document?
I did find a couple of instances in some of the data that we got from the client, which was a copy of their production database, where if you look at, there's a relationship between the kit and the work order. And what I talk about decoupling is you can see that this kit or this work order believes that it's using this kit with this transaction number to perform its inventory and financial transactions.
Right.
If we go to the kit, okay, this kit, because this value in this field, production work order number, is set, believes that it is basically its master is this work order number. And as such, I'm not able to release anything here at this point, and I'm not able to make changes to the quantity or anything. It pretty much locks down this kit. Now, we say that both you can use at the same time standard kitting functionality and light manufacturing at the same time. And what happens is if you create a work order, you do have all this functionality that you can do that. So what it appeared to me that was I had seen an instance where somebody had decoupled it. And by decoupled it, they had deleted this value from the database. That's the only way you can actually delete that value, is to run a script or directly through the database. This value had been deleted. Therefore, this document, which keys off of this field to say that it's coupled to a work order, wasn't there. And so it will allow you to do anything. And one of the things that was done was the quantity was changed so that it was out of sync. The quantity, in this case, somebody may have changed it to 190, yet on the work order it said it was 180. There is the capability to, in LM, that if you did use an administrative feature which allows you to override this lockdown, you could manually release this. There was that feature, and I can show you where that is in a while, but so that feature would allow you to do that. However, you could not do that if you changed the quantity. And that was why there was a parent-master or a parent-child relationship between the kits and the work orders that you never would have been able to complete, because that link had been decoupled and somebody had changed this. If I release this work order and I go back and I try to release this, the LM work order is smart enough to go, oh, I have to release the work order. Oh, it's already released. I don't have to release it. All I have to do is finish what I have to finish on the work order. And it will do that. But it won't do that if these numbers are not synced. So that was one condition that I found in there, and that's what I call decoupling. That feature that I talked about, that is really only an administrative feature for cleaning up very specific issues, is here. And if we go here, this is set. And this is actually kind of in code because it says override and it's in brackets, kit. It's specifically for overriding that lockdown functionality on the kit when you have something you need to do on the kit that's basically been taken away from you by the fact that it's now its master is a work order. And I would recommend that this never be on. So you have to be a customizer and you have to have this set in order to be able to have that ability. Now, customizer is a role in Acumatica. So
thank you.
It's really under developer tools because it's only a developer tool.
Got it. Okay, Greg, so what are some of the new features in 1.6.2?
Well, some of the new features in 1.6.2, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff done in allocation details, because what happened was there's actually what I think is a hole in Acumatica's allocation details. If you create a kit specification for an item and it has serialized inventory,
yep.
Say you have 5 units that are serialized on that you're going to consume on that item, and you don't actually assign any serial numbers, then what you're going to have, you're going to have nothing allocated. So, you know, if another person comes along and has a demand for 5 and you only have 5, it'll show them that they have enough stock on hand, and it'll do that. So what happens now is the new system, there's actually a check between the demand that's on a kit and the demand that's on a work order. And so Here's an example. If you have a work order that's building 5, one of the components is a serialized item. And then you generate a work order. But you don't assign, or you generate a kit, from the work order. And you don't have any serial numbers assigned. What it'll happen is it'll still say that the kit needs 5, or that the work order needs 5, and the kit is basically saying I haven't assigned any. So if I go to the kit, and then I assign 2 of them, and I go back and I look at my allocations, when I go back and look at the allocations, it's going to say that for that combo, it will now produce the master-slave associated work order and kit. It'll show that, and it'll show a demand of 5. Because what it does is it actually says that the kit has assigned 2, so it's allocated 2, and the work order amount that it's allocated started at 5, but because the kit is assigned 2, it's reduced itself by the amount that have been allocated on the kit, and the work order allocated amount will now be 3. So anyway, there was a lot of work done in that area, basically to make sure that in going through and validating the allocations, which has been a source of confusion with the customer, in order to go through that, that's why that's being done, and that's to make allocations more accurate. If you're using just the kits, they won't be accurate.
And then the other thing I understand is in planning, just in normal production control, you may have released a work order and say, I really don't want it released. I want to bring it back to the planning stage. So you're able to have that flexibility to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can do that. Or if you release it by mistake or whatever you do. If I take one here that's released.
Yep.
This one, say, for instance, is released. I can see that it's released. There actually is a slave kit for it. I can actually go through and say, delete the linked kit. Now you'll notice my status here is released. It goes back to planned, and the kit is gone.
Great. Okay.
So I no longer have a kit. And what I have to do is I can make the changes that I want, and then I can re-release it. But when it's released, it'll have a new kit number.
Got it. So in terms of upgrading to 1.62, what's the status on the existing data and its building its integrity so that it will work with 1.6.2? Because some of these new features in 1.6.2 didn't exist in 1.6.0, therefore the existing work orders don't have those features.
Right. So the data model has changed, and so there are some fields that don't exist in 1.6.0 that do exist in 1.6.2.
Right.
And without upgrading the data, you'd have failures. If you are upgrading from 1.6.1, and you need to have a hotfix installed, which is hotfix 304. And if you install hotfix 304, you will notice a new menu item on the configuration menu. It's kind of stuffed here because it's a run once, and you don't have to run it again. But it basically installs a stored procedure in the database that goes through and fixes problems that are in
nice
exist between the old data model and the new data model. So you just have to run this once. It runs very quickly, and it cleans up the data. And in addition, another process that should probably be run as part of that is to go into the production order processing. And there is a new item in here, which is basically to rebuild allocations. And if you rebuild allocations, it will allow you to rebuild allocations for almost all work orders. And the reason you may want to do that is in some cases there are completed work orders that do have some allocations that are still hanging around, and there's no way to delete them anymore. Well, if you run this process to rebuild the allocations, it will delete all of the misnomers that are out there, and it will rebuild the allocations to the new, I guess you could call it, design. Allocations have been reworked a little bit to make sure that they're more accurate. There were some issues with the way that Acumatica does allocations on kits that we've had to add some code in order to make sure that our allocations are correct. And I think I've discussed that in the past. It's a lengthy discussion, but nevertheless, it exists and we fixed it. So
Great.
You would run this process on here. So you could run process all or whatever. I have ran it on 7,000 work orders and it takes about 15 minutes. So do it.
Yeah.
But if I go to pick a date for a new period, okay, and notice we've got an error. This basically said the financial period represented by the date here is either not defined or is not open for this transaction period. I can no longer complete or quick complete this until I fix this error. So
with the new system, what happens?
Well, what happens is I can no longer quick complete this work order, because what happens is it's saying that this is a cannot go forward error.
Yeah, so with 6.2, what happens?
You're trying to post into a closed financial period.
All right, and with 1.6.2, what happens, please?
And with this is 1.6.2 because we're running in the dev version. These are new features.
Oh, so this is the feature. It doesn't allow you to go back and post. Got it.
Right. So it'll give you this error. You won't be able to do that. You have to actually pick a date that's in an open financial period. And so I think August is open. And so when we do that, now we don't have that error anymore. Now we can go on and do the things that we need to do.
Got it.
So then what happens is this date is now synced to the completed date will be synced upon completion to this date. So right now they're not synced, okay, because there is no need, because that's your original plan date. But when you actually complete it, that is the date that your transaction is booked, and that will be the date that will be over here. And again, it must be in a valid, open, and defined financial period.
Got it. Okay, good.